Good morning and welcome to the Australian Olympic Committee Annual General Meeting for 2024. Before we officially open the meeting, a couple of housekeeping items. Should you require anything during the meeting or experiencing voting technical issues, please send a note in the meeting chat by clicking the Q&A bubble at the top of your screen, or send an email to agm@olympics.com.au. And one of our staff will respond to you. Both the meeting chat and the email will be monitored for the duration of the meeting. The meeting is scheduled to take approximately 1 hour, and to facilitate the voting process, we request that everyone stay online for the entire meeting. There'll be 3 proposed resolutions for our voting delegates to respond to during the meeting. It is important that all our voting delegates vote on each proposed resolution, noting all the resolutions will be in the first portion of the meeting. The proposed constitutional changes require a special majority of not less than 75% of our voting members. We'll be using the TrueVote online voting platform for all 3 proposed resolutions, and the voting delegates will already have received instructions. When the voting opens, voting delegates will receive an email and an SMS for their vote to be cast. Item 7, the proposed changes to the Constitution, will now be Item 6. Item 7, the proposed changes to the Constitution, will now be Item 6, and the President's address will now be Item 7. This is to allow for all the votes to follow each other. In regards to the proposed changes to the Constitution, if you have any comments, please feel free to add them via the chat function now and until we reach the agenda item. Also, in regards to Item 8, General Business, please feel free to raise matters in advance of that item on the Q&A function. Now I'd like to ask the Vice President, Matt Allen AM, to undertake the acknowledgement of country.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning. We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet here in Sydney, the Gadigal people. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands around Australia you are on, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We recognise and appreciate their continuing connection to the land, waters and community, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples meeting online today. We are proud that Australia has been represented by 60 known Indigenous Australian Olympians. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I'd now like to introduce the Australian Olympic Committee President, Mr. Ian Chesterman AM, to open the meeting.
Thanks, Matt, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. I declare open this meeting, for which notice was given on March 4, 2024. Also like to welcome online our life members who are joining us: Kevin Gosper, AOOLY, John Coates, AC, Peter Montgomery, AOM and OLY, Michael Wendon, AM, MBE, OLY, and Helen Brownlee, AM. Joining me here at the AOC head office in Circular Quay, AOC Vice President Evelyn Halls, OAM, OLY, to my right, and our Secretary Mary-Ann Muggleston. Of course, you've already met Matt Allen and heard from Matt Carroll, AM, our CEO. Some more welcomes. I would like to welcome online John Coates separately, John Coates AC in his capacity as first Vice President of the International Olympic Committee and Vice President for the Brisbane Organising Committee for the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And welcome all members of the AOC Executive. Our Athletes Commission Chair, Kate Campbell, AOM, OLY, who's training so hard for the Games right now, and Deputy Chair Ken Wallace, OAM, OLY, and other Athletes Commission members who are with us today. Indigenous Advisory Committee Chair Patrick Johnson, OLY, and Deputy Chair Janny Merceau, OLY, are with us. Welcome, gents. Australian Olympic Association Co-Chairs David Colbert, OLY, and Louise Dobson, OLY. I welcome Dr. John Hewson, AM, Chair of our Olympic Investment Advisory Committee for the Foundation. Special welcome to John. Thank you for all you do. And Medical Commission Chair, Dr. David Hughes, AM, FAC, SEP. And finally, joining us representing EY is John Robinson. Thank you to, and thank you and a welcome to all our member sports and their delegates. In particular, I'd like to welcome our 5 new members. Cricket Australia with Mike Baird, AO, as chair. Gridiron Australia, acting chair is Pamela Tuft. Welcome. From Lacrosse Australia, we have Abby Burgess-Bryce. Great to have you with us. From Squash Australia, we have Matt Schmidt. And we also welcome back Baseball Australia Federation and Softball Australia. Good to have David Hines, AM, OLY, back with us, and also Richard Lindell from Softball. We've also got a number of new presidents who have joined us since we last met. The turnover that we're getting through presidents seems to be getting bigger and bigger, but we're delighted to be able to welcome today Mark Cinderberry from Artistic Swimming, Jane Fleming from Athletics, Davide Wheeler from Fencing, Julie McDonald from Badminton, Christy Freeman from Equestrian, Anta Isaac from Football, Peter Margin from Golf, Samuel Offord from Gymnastics, from Paddle we have Andrew Trim, from Rugby Daniel Herbert, from Surfing Adrian Buchan, and we also have the interim co-chairs at Swimming joining us, Hayden Collins and Neil Mann. A big welcome to you all. We've also seen a number of new CEOs at our member sports since we last met, and a welcome to them from archery, badminton, biathlon, bobsleigh, gymnastics, rugby sevens, table tennis, taekwondo, rowing, swimming and water polo. So big changes happening there, and new CEOs from our member sports. Particular welcome to you guys from cricket, gridiron, squash, baseball and softball. We've got representatives of the state Olympic councils with us, the State Olympic Advisory Committees and the Australian Olympians Association and observers. So welcome all. We do have a few apologies from our life members, Jeff Henke, AO, who's still going very well, Sir Donald Trescothick also, Sir Donald Trescothick ACKBE, and Ron Harvey, CVO AM. A full list of apologies, including those from presidents of national federations and our committees, will be available online at the Australian Olympic Committee website. If there are any late apologies to record, please send an email to agm@olympics.com.au at the conclusion of the meeting, and we'll be sure to include them in the formal records. So it's with great sadness that we recognise and honour our Olympians, administrators and great servants of our movement who have passed away over the past year. To mark their passing, we've prepared this special video tribute to them. It's in respect and memory of all these colleagues that I would ask you to observe a moment's silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. We now have item 4 on our agenda, minutes of the last annual general meeting held on the 6th of May 2023, and these were circulated with the agenda for this meeting on the 12th of April earlier this year. Does anybody have any comments in respect of those minutes? And if they do so, can they please put them in the Q&A chat function? We'll pause just for a moment to see if anything comes in. If nothing comes in, we'll move on to the next agenda item, but please feel free if you have something to say, if you could do that for me, please. No news? Okay. Thank you very much. Could I now have a motion that the minutes be confirmed as a true and correct record of the annual general meeting held on the 6th of May 2023?
I'm happy to put forward that motion.
Thank you, Evelyn. So let's now open the voting for that, and you'll have 1 minute to register your vote, please, to adopt the minutes of the last meeting. Thank you. Thanks everybody. I declare the motion carried, and I congratulate you on mastering the technology. We'll give you a few more chances to practice as we move on. Having declared that motion carried, I'm getting a little bit confused on my agenda here. There's no business arising, bear with me. We now move to item 5 of the agenda.
You do. We do.
And I will hand over to our CEO for the presentation of the 2023 annual report, the financial statements of the committee and the independent auditor's report. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Ian. The Australian Olympic Committee finished 2023 in good shape and is well prepared for the Olympic year 2024. Over the year, we continued to guide our work through our 5 key ambitions, which underpin the 10 initiatives we set for the Paris Quad. And that was, of the 5, the first, continue to build our organisational culture, capability and capacity to ensure the AOC is well placed to achieve our objectives. Provide our member sports and our athletes with the support they need to maximise opportunities at Beijing 2022 and Paris 2024. Evolve our successful community and Olympic programs to drive further value for the Olympic movement across Australia. Extend our leadership and advocacy for sport by utilising the 10-year runway to Brisbane 2032, and embedded into the AOC what we do and the way we do it, so it becomes our DNA. The 10 initiatives that support our ambitions are listed in the annual report, and they are a set of measures and accountabilities to monitor progress for each of the initiatives which are reported on annually to the Executive. I'm pleased to advise that the Executive has endorsed the progress made in 2023. Importantly, the individual sections of the annual report are also progress reports on the initiatives to the AOC members. Starting with the Games, the planning and preparations for the Australian team to Paris Olympics progressed well over the year, meeting the challenges of the Games with venues spread across France and to Tahiti. The IOC and organising committee continue to evolve the Games mode of operation under the IOC-initiated Games optimisation process. Games optimisation, matched with delivering a high-performance environment, requires the AOC to not only support the member sports athletes in the village, but also across satellite villages and sports sub-sites, including financial subsidies. With around 1/3 of the team not accommodated in the main Olympic village, we are focused on ensuring all athletes have the same service and Games experience regardless of where they are accommodated. Related to our commitment to a high-performance environment for all Australian Olympic team athletes in December 2022, the AOC Executive approved the Paris 2024 Australian Olympic post-competition departure policy, following consultation with the Athletes Commission, Medical Commission and member sports. Yes, a change from past Games, but one that reflects and supports the reality of the now and the future of the high-performance environment required and expected by the athletes. We're advised that over 80 national Olympic committees now have post-competition departure policies. In 2023, we sent our largest ever Australian team to the Pacific Games in the Solomon Islands, supporting our member sports' next generation of athletes, as well as Paris qualification for boxing and archery. A total of 70 athletes competed in 8 sports. Our thanks to Chef de Mission Kenny Wallace and Deputy Chef Amy Hetzel-Jones for leading the successful team. Our thanks to the High Commissioner in Honiara for their support and the Governor-General for hosting the team in an official reception. The second edition of the World Beach Games was cancelled in July 2023, just 1 month before the Games were due to commence. The organising committee, Bali 2023, withdrew from its commitment to host and ANOC had no time to organise an alternative host. The future of the Beach Games will be discussed at the ANOC General Assembly in October 2024. In 2023, the LA Sports Program was announced by the IOC. The sports of softball and baseball return and new sports of cricket in the T20 format and lacrosse in the Sixers format, squash and flag football will join skateboarding, sport climbing and surfing, who have already been confirmed, in the LA 2028 program of 33 sports. A preliminary assessment suggests the Australian Olympic team could increase to 580 plus athletes for the 2028 Games. Turning to our community engagement, the AOC's programs have become our best asset after the Olympic teams. The programs allow us to say to our partners, the community, government and other stakeholders that Olympic action is always on. While the teams and the Games are important, the AOC is not just about the Games. Our flagship program, Olympics Unleashed, continues to grow, now having reached over 360,000 students across 2,750 schools, delivered by over 300 trained athletes and Olympians. The state governments of New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia and Western Australia are renewing, with their combined investment currently at $3.5 million. The Australian Olympic Changemaker generates 1,000 nominations of students from schools each year, students who are making a positive difference in their communities through sport. This rewarding program is highly valued by teachers and students. In February last year, the AOC, together with the New South Wales Government, officially recognised the 7 New South Wales sports high schools as Australian Olympic Pathway Schools, a world first. The 7 schools have contributed 32 Olympians and Paralympians since Sydney 2000 and provided extraordinary opportunities for students to pursue their athletic journey. The schools provide an authentic example of the combined power of sport and education. As we travel down the runway to 2032, our community engagement programs are going to be vital to the AOC successfully and positively impacting the community the post-Brisbane Games, during the Games and ensuring the Olympic movement in Australia emerges stronger and more relevant post the Games in 2033. We launched our second Reconciliation Action Plan, the 2-year Innovate RAP, which sees the AOC continue to deliver Olympic programs for and with Indigenous Australians, whilst aiming to provide inspiration and positive pathways through sport. Olympic history is rich and and diverse in Australia, so we have an initiative to ensure AOC has the capability to capture, curate and safely preserve Australian Olympic history, materials, data and items. The initiative is well into the development phase, preserving the past to provide value for the future. To facilitate greater marketing capability for the AOC and to support member sports, we've invested in Martech, marketing technology, a platform to support and grow the Olympic team fan base and engage with fans in a targeted way. The strategy will drive more value back to fans while developing an asset to support the commercial program. The platform will also provide greater data insights to support member sports, commercial programs and participation growth. Providing leadership and advocacy for Olympic sports is a clear role under the Olympic Charter and the AOC's objectives. On 27th of March last year, I addressed the National Press Club on the topic and role of an investment in sport. The purpose of the speech was to propose new thinking and new action that deliberately targets investment in a more active, healthier and productive population through the delivery mechanism of sport. Based on the work with and the support of our member sports, 4 key actions were communicated. 1, the need for a statement of purpose that clearly articulates a national purpose of and for the sports industry, clearly stating where sport sits in the federal government's national priorities. 2, a new sport investment model to reframe the sport as true partners with the federal government, acknowledging that sports are integrated businesses, the virtuous circle, participation, pathways and performance. Each dependent on the other to drive success and growth, requires investment in sports through a 4-year cycle. 3, a federal Department of Sport to ensure alignment of government policy and activities to optimise sports contribution to the nation from a whole of government perspective, and 4, the appropriate investment to make it all happen. Advocacy in 2023 also came with practical and diverse outcomes. 3 examples was in July, following strong advocacy from the AOC, we welcome the announcement by the Minister of Sport, the Honourable Anika Wells, of the Games Qualification Fund of $20.056 million for member sports to address the rising costs of qualification for both their Olympic and Paralympic athletes. In December, we worked with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to design a 12-month project to support the training, preparation, qualification of Pacific athletes to qualify and compete at the Paris 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games. A grant of $1.5 million was made to the AOC in early 24 to action this project. On behalf of Oceania, NOCs and athletes, our thanks to the Australian Government. And through the support and approval of the Minister for Immigration, the Honourable Andrew Giles, with the bipartisan support of the federal opposition, we achieved the evacuation from Iran of the brothers of the Afghan Olympian Kimia Yousefi. The brothers were in imminent danger, in part due to Kimia's aim to compete at the Paris Olympics. Our advocacy is well supported by a network of parliamentary friendship groups covering the federal parliament and state parliaments of Queensland, Western Australia and Tasmania, with friendship groups launched in Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia recently in 2024. My thanks to the co-chairs for each of the friendship groups for their support and interest in promoting the Olympic and Paralympic movements in Australia. AOC's leadership across the year was evidenced in many ways, including supporting the Oceania National Olympic Committee with the hosting of their annual General Assembly in Brisbane, at which the AOC President, Ian Chesterman, was elected to the ONOC Executive Board. Signing a memorandum of understanding with the French National Olympic Committee to work together on a range of matters, including the use of sport as a tool for health and well-being, best practices in the field of commercial and marketing strategy, and organisation of major sport events, and to foster collaboration and training exchange between Australia and French sports. We continue to roll out our climate action and sustainability plan to hit our 30% reduction by 2024 target. We established a pilot program to support 8 member sports to develop and implement their own climate action plans. Shaping the Queensland Government's Games Legacy Plan, Elevate 2042, I'm getting my fours confused this morning. We did so in alignment with member sports, Paralympics Australia, Commonwealth Games Australia and Brisbane 2032. Through our group work, there are positive overarching themes with a strategy for Australians to benefit from the catalyst of the home games through sport. Membership of consultative groups of the Australian Sports Commission's High Performance Strategy, Win Well, and the Participation Strategy, Play Well. The AOC supports both strategies as they are aligned with our objectives and have been co-designed with member sport input. The Commission is well in developing the plan to action the strategies, with the key being the investment by the federal government. The federal government will also be releasing its National Sports Plan in 2024. There are around 10 strategic planning documents in circulation related to achieving legacy from Brisbane 2032, ranging from the broad Elevate 2042 to the high performance focused Win Well. To manage this number of strategies and to action our own strategy, we adopted a pragmatic approach. We accepted that the strategies would inform government and agency policy and initiatives, and therefore AOC needed to either endorse and advocate for all or aspects of a strategy, where appropriate adopt a strategy to design and form initiatives of our own, or simply note and leave others to implement. Through the AOC's Impact and Legacy Committee, chaired by Executive Member Mark Habib, and collaboration with Member Sports, we're in the process of developing AOC's Impact Strategy, based on the theme of thriving Olympic sports. The aim is to release the strategy by November 2024. Importantly, our process will be undertaken through the lens of AOC values, mission and objectives, and apply to any proposals. That great line from the sport of rowing, will it make the boat go faster? AOC management and I met regularly with our counterparts at Sport Australia and AIS, Commonwealth Games Australia, Paralympics Australia, the Federal Office of Sport and other national state organisations to collaborate on development of sport policy, actions and opportunity. My thanks to all. These arrangements are positive, welcome and help to deliver outcomes. We commenced building a good working relationship with Brisbane 2032 CEO Cindy Hook and her management team, laying down core arrangements and ways of working. Of great value to the AOC are our member sport CEO roundtables. 3 were held covering topics of sponsorship, collaboration, data and digital opportunities, legacy and impact, government sport policy and games briefings. 3 member sport presidents' forums, an initiative of the AOC president, were held so members of the executive can engage directly with the presidents on issues that matter to them. My personal thanks to our member sports for your excellent support and collaboration. You lend us your athletes to build Olympic teams, without which we cannot achieve our objectives. I'm pleased to report that over the year we continue to grow our sponsor family. We welcomed engineering consultants and infrastructure operators Aegis, Old El Paso, Harvey Norman, Paddy's Foods, and of course Olympic broadcaster Nine as new sponsors of the AOC and our Olympic teams. The quad sponsorship target of 74 million was achieved. We enjoy strong support from our sponsors, evidenced by Toyota extending and increasing its investment in the AOC's Indigenous coaching scholarships, allowing the sports of swimming, hockey and athletics to join basketball in the program. The expanded program was announced at our community event held at the Tyndall RAAF base in Katherine, Northern Territory, facilitated by our partnership with the RAAF. Our thanks to Damien Mostyn and the team at Sport 5. Their professionalism and knowledge in sponsorship procurement and servicing is second to none, evidenced by our results. Financially, the AOC recorded a surplus of 4 million for the year. Of note, in this surplus, sponsorship revenues increased by 3 million from the prior year, highlighting the continuing strength of the AOC's commercial program. Importantly, several of our sponsors have extended terms through to 2026. The surplus of the year was also bolstered by 1.5 million from generous and ongoing support of the New South Wales and Queensland state governments for the Team Appeal, which between them contributed equally to our Team Appeal program. Since the close of the year, we also received donations from Western Australia, ACT, Tasmania and Victoria. The Australian Team Appeal committees were established and a national sales program developed. We also agreed a joint venture operation with Paralympics Australia for a single appeals program for both our teams. Our thanks to the chairs and members of the committees for your hard work and dedication. We thank the members of the Australian Olympic Foundation Investment Advisory Committee, chaired by Dr. John Hewson, who continue to provide their expertise and oversight in 2023 in a volatile investment market. For the year, cash returns of 6.8 million were delivered to the AOC. So we enter the 2024 year with a strong balance sheet underpinned by a 14.6 million in retained surplus. This is vital for the funding of the services and support of the Australian Olympic team to Paris 2024, which will come at a cost of around 24 million. In the report, there is a section on funding the Australian Olympic movement, setting out where we generate revenues and, importantly, where we expend those revenues across operations, teams, programs, athletes and member sports. The report contains the AOC's financial statements, executive's declaration and the independent auditor's report from EY. I thank you to EY for their work and Gold Star approval of our financial processes and reporting. The organisational changes initiated in March 2022 have proven effective, evidence from the work achieved and still underway. Importantly, the changes ensured we were able to act and lead across a range of externally initiated activities. Post the Paris Games, a review will be undertaken to address any changes required to improve performance and ensure we are organisationally fit for the LA Quad and into Brisbane. Any changes will include learnings from the Beijing and Paris Games and will consider the evolving requirements to manage our relationship with the Brisbane 2032 Games partners. From the executive, our commissions and committees, through our senior management team, all our staff, both regular and games time, we know what we need to do and the way we need to get it done, listening and learning. Over the past 12 months, I've had the opportunity to engage with people ranging from our corporate partners, government ministers, staff, schools, sports organisations, national and international, local communities and many individuals. I can report that the Australian Olympic Committee is well respected, importantly, and acknowledged as making a positive difference through sport. My personal thanks to the President, Ian Chesterman, his strong support and counsel, and to the Executive and other members of our commissions and committees. Your advice and support ensure we can do what we do and how we do it. To the leadership team and all our staff, thank you. Your effort and contribution gets the job done. This was not an Olympic year, but as the annual report shows, much was undertaken and achieved for the benefit of the Olympic movement in Australia. I now propose that the 2023 annual report, financial statements, and independent auditor's report be received.
Thank you, Matt, and voting is now open. And we'll give you 1 minute to register that vote. If you could do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody. You must be getting the hang of this. I can declare the motion carried. So we can now move to item 6 of the agenda, the proposed changes to the AOC Constitution, and I'll call on the Chair of our Governance Committee, Evelyn Halls, to take us through the changes. Thanks, Evelyn.
Thanks, Ian. The explanatory memorandum detailing the proposed changes was circulated with the agenda for this meeting on 12th of April 2024. Today, the AOC is proposing a special resolution to its members to amend its constitution. The changes are set out in the explanatory memorandum that was circulated to members on 12th of April. The proposed changes bring the AOC constitution in line with recent amendments to the Olympic Charter, including changes which strengthen its human rights commitments. Other changes represent drafting corrections and confirm the long-standing operation of the AOC Executive exhaustive ballot election process. Importantly, the AOC is also seeking to amend Objective 6.6 of the Constitution as follows: to recognise and value the heritage, culture and contribution of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to Australia and the Olympic movement, and to promote and give practical support to the journey of reconciliation through sport. This change celebrates the latest commitment in the AOC's reconciliation journey and follows consultation with the AOC's Indigenous Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Evelyn. So this is an important change, and we ask if anybody has any comments in respect of the proposed changes, that they place them in the comments in the Q&A section of the meeting chat, and I'll pause just for a moment to check if anything's come in earlier or if anything's coming in now before we move that to adopt those changes. So just bear with us for a little bit. Nothing, okay, good to go again, very good. So there's no comments come in. So on that basis, I put forward on behalf of the AOC Executive a resolution to amend the Australian Olympic Committee Constitution effective today, 4 May 2024, as outlined in the explanatory memorandum circulated to members with the agenda on the 12th of April 2024, yes, we're in 2024. Amendments to the Constitution require a special majority of not less than 3/4, so 75% of the member of voting persons at this general meeting. So an important vote. Voting is now open, and we'll leave that open for 1 minute so that you can cast your vote. Thank you. Thanks everybody for participating in that. It gives me much pleasure to declare the amendments carried. So thank you. Which now brings me to my President's address. And it's my great pleasure to present to you my second report as President, albeit this year looking at you through the eye of the camera and not being with you in person. Be assured we'll all be back together for our annual general meeting on May 3, 2025. Put that one in the diary. It's been a big 12 months just gone, highlighted by the continuing work around Brisbane 2032, the Pacific Games in the Solomon Islands, the Winter Youth Olympic Games in Korea, and our advocacy for greater investment in you, our member sports. And there's a big year to come with Paris 2024 now just 10 weeks away until we move into the village. Our CEO's covered many of the operational matters and organisational successes in his address, and I thank him for that. But I wanted to focus on some key issues that will shape this organisation this year and into the future. There's nothing bigger on the horizon than our home games, Australia's Games, Brisbane 2032. Sadly, in the past year, and in particular the past few months, we've seen a lot of negativity around aspects of the Games, mainly focused around venues and the physical legacy of Brisbane hosting the Olympics. I'll talk later about venues, but for us at the AOC, the focus of these Games is maximising the impacts from the Games on people and our sports people. It's always been around people. The heroes of Melbourne 1956, our Dawn, the great Dawn Fraser, Murray Rose, Betty Cuthbert inspired a nation. The heroes of Sydney 2000, Freeman, Thorpe, O'Neill became the generation that inspired many of this current generation. And if we get Brisbane right by empowering our sports to run world-class events, we know they will create the future champions in Brisbane who will ignite the dreams of young Australians for decades to come. This country's been incredibly well served by our Olympic success, building our international reputation and pride, building social cohesion and inspiring, motivating kids in cities, towns, in regions right across the nation to get active, to be part of a local club, a community, indeed to be part of something bigger than themselves. And it's not just about inspiring young people to partake in sport. Brisbane 2032 can be used to give meaning to volunteerism, to being a coach, an official, an administrator. It will create opportunities for all of those who are currently studying sports medicine, sports science, sports management, sports nutrition, sports analysis, sports psychology, sports media, and many other sports-related fields to get on and build a career. If we get the investment right in our sports, and yes, money is of pivotal importance, then we will grow and nurture a sports system that will create opportunities from participation to pathway to high performance that will see us produce results in 2032 that will make Australia proud. But more than just Brisbane, if we get it right now, we will see Australia reaffirmed as one of the Olympic superpowers for many games to come through the remainder of the 30s and the 40s. I've spent a great deal of time travelling the country over the past 12 months to emphasise two things to state governments. We are the Australian Olympic Committee and our programs can impact right across the country. And the Brisbane Games are Australia's home games and they offer an opportunity for every state. I pay credit to the Queensland Government for a major commitment to developing a Games legacy plan with sport at its centre. And I've spoken to many premiers and sports ministers urging them to double down on developing their legacy and impact plan to bring benefits created by this home games to their state. While no longer involved in Brisbane 2032, I would like to record the AOC's deep gratitude to the immediate past Premier, the Honourable Anastasia Palaszczuk, for her commitment to winning the Games for Australia and her energy to bring alive the plan to run the Games. Brisbane 2032 President Andrew Liveris and CEO Cindy Hook are doing an excellent job and continue to value the input of the AOC and work constructively with us. The relationship's in very good shape. The venue plan is a work in progress, but the AOC has taken a strong position that we do not need the Gabba redevelopment for Brisbane 2032, nor do we support a replacement stadium being built specifically in time for the Games. If Queensland and Brisbane decide they need a new stadium in the future for AFL as an entertainment venue and for cricket, that's up to them, but it's not a requirement for this Olympic Games. We welcome construction of the 5 new community centres for the Games. They will be declared Olympic training centres, and we support redevelopment of QSAC, subject to the feasibility and costing work currently underway. Athletics brings more than 750,000 active participants to the QSAC annually, and the upgrade would provide a modern track and field centre that can host local, national and international events long into the future. Excuse me. Let's move to sports funding. We saw it in Melbourne and we saw it in Sydney, and we saw it again most recently in London and Tokyo, that a successful home games needs a successful home team. The success of our athletes will be the biggest single factor in the Australian people judging if our games have been a success. For the Australian team, we're very aware that its success is only possible with the success of you, our member sports. Your success is our success, and we know that for many of you, indeed most of you, you're at breaking point. You can't keep doing what you do so well without a major boost in funding, and the AOC has been advocating for an immediate boost for our Australian Olympic and Paralympic sports. I acknowledge the great support of the federal government with the extra $20 million cost of qualification funding, which has helped our sports leading into Paris, and I thank the Federal Minister for Sport, the Honourable Annika Wells, for championing our cause around that funding for 2024 and for what we need going forward. In terms of funding, the AOC is not asking for others what it does not do itself. The AOC continues to spend money on athletes, our teams, our sports, in promoting our sports and Olympism in the community. Across the Paris Quad, the AOC will have spent over $7 million supporting our member sports' top performing athletes through our long-established medal incentive fund. Over 395 athletes from 23 sports, both summer and winter, have been the beneficiaries of this $7 million. We spent over $3 million on the Beijing team to the Winter Games, and we'll spend over $25 million to fund our team operations in Paris. We know that number will grow substantially in 2028 to over $30 million, and by 2032, the cost of sending our team to our home games could be in excess of $40 million. And we fund our teams without any federal government monies. We ask only that the federal government support you, our member sports. We fund 17 member sports who receive little or no government funding to the tune of $2 million across the 4 years. And the importance of having a successful games team at both summer and winter cannot be overstated, and the AOC continues to support the OWIA with more than $4.5 million across the Quad. With our commitment to promoting Olympic sports and the values of Olympism, we spend over $6 million in our community programs, including Olympics Unleashed, Olympic Changemaker, our Indigenous Scholarship Program, and our work with Olympians. Our medal incentive fund will be reviewed post-Paris to ensure it delivers the funds in the best possible way, given other changes that might be happening to the sports model funding. They will announce that after the Paris Games. Today, I am pleased to announce that yesterday the AOC Executive approved the creation of the Australian Olympic Incentive Scheme, which allows philanthropists, big and small, to make tax-deductible donations to two separate funds via the Australian Sports Foundation. The first fund is the existing AOC Medal Incentive Fund, which will continue to see monies distributed, our funds, according to our set criteria, while also allowing donors to contribute additional funds to medal-winning athletes or team sports. The second new fund, called the Aspiring Australian Olympic Athlete Fund, which will be structured to allow donations to individual athletes. It will be focused on providing support to those aspiring to attend an Olympics or who do qualify to attend the Games. Excitingly, one philanthropist has already committed to boosting the funding for athletes in a number of sports via the Olympic Athlete Incentive Scheme, and we will now start to promote this opportunity to other donors, big and small. Once the donations have cleared the Australian Sports Foundation, the money will flow through to the athlete without any administrative charge by the AOC, just as our current MIF money does. I particularly thank our Vice President, who's here with me today, Matt Allen, for his work on this project, and we'll now look to grow the pool of funds tax deductible to the giver, flowing through to athletes as they work so hard to represent us on the world stage. We are exploring a number of additional income streams for our sports, and we'll update you on that shortly. All of what we do is only possible due to the support of our sponsors and suppliers, so a big thank you to you all. I also, as Matt mentioned, like to add my thanks to the governments of Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, Western Australia, Tasmania, my own home state, and the ACT for their support of our Olympic team appeal, and we're in positive discussions with South Australia as well. Greatly appreciated. With many new faces, and I ran through them before now, running our member sports each year, it's important to underline the importance of the Australian Olympic Foundation, our legacy nest egg from the Sydney 2000 Games, and the ongoing work of the AOC ever since our last home games. Sydney's foundation $90 million legacy was a one-off. There will be no guaranteed funding boost from the Brisbane Games. The IOC has changed the rules which allowed us to do that, and so there's no extra one-off bonus. That initial one-off lump sum from Sydney took the foundation's value to $100 million in 2000. Since then, the foundation has grown to be valued at the end of March this year at around $186 million. Importantly, besides that capital growth, our nest egg has contributed over $160 million across that period since Sydney to help the operations of the AOC, giving us the freedom to do what we do without asking for any federal government funding and being instead able to argue that you, our member sports, should receive the federal investment. I sometimes hear the argument that we should be spending more of that nest egg now, supporting our sports even further. The trouble is, to state the bleeding obvious, you can only spend it once, and this is a legacy for all time. By the end of the Quad, the money paid from the foundation to the AOC will exceed $200 million, twice the original Sydney legacy money. And the foundation remains in a strong position, indeed a very strong position, to keep making bigger and bigger contributions for every Olympics to come. There is a full report that will be emailed to you on Monday that showcases the current position of the AOF at the end of the first quarter of 2024, and I urge you to read that, and I add my thanks to Dr. John Hewson and the members of the Investment Advisory Committee for their continuing outstanding advice. So on to Paris. It's exciting, isn't it? Here we go, just a few months to go. I've recently spent 2 days with our Paris 2024 leadership group at a planning retreat and walked away even more confident that we have an excellent team to lead our team. Chef de Mission Anna Mears has embraced the role in outstanding fashion, and she'll be superbly supported by the next generation of leaders, our Deputy Chef de Missions, Ken Wallace, Carly McCulloch, Kyle Vanderkype, Bronwyn Knox and Mark Knowles. You should feel comfortable that your athletes are in good hands with this group, supported by our Head of High Performance, our Olympic champion Alex Bowman, and our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Carolyn Broderick. Our AOC team on the ground will be led by Robert Virgo and a committed and talented group of support staff. Without doubt, every Games will have its challenges, but I'm confident that Paris is well prepared to put on an outstanding Olympic Games. The villages, the venues are all ready, with only temporary grandstanding and fit-out remaining. They will showcase some amazing sport in many memorable and iconic locations. Our partners at Nine, in their new role as host broadcaster, have embraced the challenge and will produce a magnificent coverage of the Games. As with every edition of the Olympics, particularly since the atrocities at Munich in 1972, security is of the highest importance to the organisers of the Games. We live in clearly difficult times, and the French are certainly not naive about the threats that exist in the world at the moment. The French government continues to place security for all participants as its greatest obligation. The AOC takes advice from the IOC that the required resources are being applied, and they continue to monitor the situation on behalf of all national committees. Along with DFAT here in this country and our own internal advisors, we will remain alert, but we're comfortable at the moment that all that needs to be done is being done and being constantly monitored to adapt to any changing circumstances. It's an appropriate time to remind ourselves that the Olympics is ultimately a peace movement, bringing people together from more than 200 nations, putting aside shared histories and current disputes to live side by side and take part in peaceful competition, showcasing for that short period of time, those 17 days, just what might be possible. And in these times, it's an incredibly difficult job to keep those 200 nations plus together, and we should not take it for granted that the Olympic movement will always be the uniting force it is today. It takes work, it takes an enormous commitment in communicating and promoting the shared values we all have. Since Tokyo, with the war in the Ukraine, in Gaza and disputes in many other places around the world, it's been an enormously challenging environment for the IOC to keep us all together. I thank IOC President Thomas Bach and his team at the IOC for their tireless work to maintain and promote the uniting role of the Olympics and Olympism, continuing to build bridges whilst others sadly look to blow them up. When our team takes part in Paris, they'll be part of something greater than a sports event. They will be a living example, along with the athletes of the world, as just what is possible. It's an exciting time. I wish our team and our sports every success in Paris. We're right behind you all the way, and we can't wait for the Games to officially begin on July 26. While talking teams, I'd like to pay particular tribute to those who represented our country at the Pacific Games in the Solomon Islands in November and the Winter Youth Olympic Games in Korea in January. Both teams represented us with distinction, both on and off the field of play, and I would particularly like to recognise the chefs de missions of those teams, Ken Wallace and Deputy Amy Jones at the Pacific Games, and Ramon Cooper at the Youth Games. And while so much focus is naturally on our summer athletes as we head to Paris, a quick shout out to our winter athletes, to their member sports and the work of the Olympic Winter Institute. I was a foundation board member of the OWI back in 1998. Medals were rare then, and the thought of winning multiple medals in one season was just a dream. This year, as a measure of the success of the OWI, its athletes won an unprecedented 50 World Cup medals, exceeding the previous best medal haul of 35 World Cup medals in one season back in 2017. It's a remarkable tribute to the work of our athletes and their support staff, the board under Chair Dean Gosper, and the staff at the OWI and our national federations, and I congratulate them and I thank them. I was also delighted to see ice hockey and biathlon at the Youth Games, their first appearance in an Olympic event for many years, and congratulate their national federations. Let me pause briefly. Thank you. I'd now like to turn our attention to matters at home. Our Vice President, Matt Allen, has been pivotal in developing another AOC initiative, the Australian Olympic Indigenous Athlete Fund. The AOC executive yesterday approved the formation of the fund, which will encourage high net worth individuals seeking a commercial return on the funds to invest in the Australian Olympic Indigenous Athlete Fund. The fund will provide investors with easy access to a curated portfolio of leading Australian and or global fund managers who will all agree to forego all management and performance fees. The foregone fees will effectively provide a contribution of around 1% for the AOC to support programs designed to assist high potential Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the lead up to Brisbane 2032 and beyond. The AOC, through its constitution and its actions, is committed to reconciliation through sport, and we need to create more opportunities for our Indigenous athletes to find a home in our Olympic sports. A special thanks for this initiative must go to Jeff Wilson AO, who has championed this idea and will facilitate the legal and administrative structures to run the investment fund. The initial target is to have a fund valued at between $50 to $100 million, which will generate $500 to $1 million per annum for the AOC to contribute towards this very important cause. We will be looking to work with sporting and other community groups who have existing programs or plans to achieve our mutual goal of greater representation of Indigenous athletes in the Australian Olympic team. I'm very pleased to say that to start immediately on an initiative for our Indigenous athletes, the AOC yesterday approved the Indigenous Athlete Performance Grants to support Indigenous athletes who have been selected to the Australian team to represent us in Paris. The grants will provide Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander athletes named in the team who meet the criteria approved by the Indigenous Advisory Committee $5,000 to help them prepare for their 24 campaign and to kickstart their quest to be part of the team in LA 28. Our commitment to our First Nations people is genuine. I was thrilled to visit Katherine late last year with a number of our Indigenous Advisory Committee members and see them work in the communities and schools right across the region. Our uniforms in Paris will see every Australian athlete competing gear that gives recognition to this country's past, history that takes in more than 65,000 years that Indigenous Australians have been on these lands and waters. We altered our constitution in 2015 to recognise our First Nations people and to commit ourselves to reconciliation through sport. And I thank you for your amendment of clause 6.6 of our constitution earlier this meeting. My thanks to Indigenous Advisory Committee Chair Patrick Johnson, his Deputy Chair Danny Morsou, and their committee for their continued guidance to me and the AOC Executive, inspiring us to create a better Australia. We are much richer for their work and we remain committed to continue to work together. This job is by no means done and we're walking down the road side by side. The Olympic movement lost many dear friends across the past 12 months and it was appropriate to pay our respects to them all earlier on. I would, however, like to pay particular tribute to a true legend of Australian sport, John Devitt AM, who passed away on August 17 last year, aged 86. John competed at the 1956 and 60 Olympic Games, winning 2 gold medals, a silver and a bronze. He served on the AOC executive for 16 years, 10 as Vice President, and was a life member and a guardian. John had a passion for athletes, serving as Deputy Chef de Mission to the Australian team on a number of occasions, including the big one in Sydney 2000. He was also a loyal servant of the Commonwealth Games, including as Chef de Mission of the team in Melbourne back in 2006. His love for his own sport was deep and he served Swimming Australia in many roles, including as President. John was a champion in and out of the water, an incredibly decent person, and we send our condolences to his wife Wendy and their family. We're also saddened to lose Andrew Plimpton earlier this year. The Admiral served on our executive for 8 years and was a stalwart of sailing and many other sporting organisations. He'll be sadly missed and our thoughts are with Kim and their family. And we're also saddened to lose Lady Trescothick, wife of Sir Donald, our life member and guardian. Lady T was a deep contributor to the organisation. She had a passion for it along with Sir Donald, and they touched the Olympic movement in many ways, and her loss is felt by many. The AOC remains in good shape. Your executive continues to be driven to be a member-focused organisation with a collaborative approach. I thank each AOC executive member for driving the organisation forward and for always being prepared to bring your skills and energies to the fore to help on different commissions and projects. We're extremely pleased with the work of our CEO, Matt Carroll, and his excellent senior management team. Working in the world of sport is extremely complex, with many issues arising that require a calm and considered response And on top of the normal load, we're now a key partner in running a home Olympic Games, and Matt and his team are doing a superb job, and we thank them. I thank our IOC Vice President, John Coates, for his continued help and guidance, particularly on the 2032 Brisbane project. John's term as an IOC member concludes at the end of 24, but he will continue to make a major contribution to the Olympic movement in this country, and I suspect more broadly. Thank you, John. I'm fortunate to be regularly in the office here in Sydney and see firsthand the dedication of our staff, and on behalf of all the executive, I say to our staff a big thank you. And a particular thanks from me to our CEO. Matt and I have a highly effective working relationship. I greatly appreciate his expertise, his energy, and his commitment to advance the cause of Olympic sports and the Olympic movement in this country. To all our commissions and committees, thank you for all your efforts, for caring and for making a difference, particularly to our Athletes Commission chaired by Kate Campbell. We regularly call on you for advice. You always take your responsibilities seriously and to good effect. We remain committed to always seeking the advice of athletes on matters that affect athletes, while also ensuring that the Athletes Commission Chair and Deputy have full voting rights as members of our executive. I thank our Medical Commission and the Australian Olympians Association, led by Louise Dobson and David Colbert, and those on our state advisory councils and state committees. Very important people in our Olympic year are the chairs of our team appeal committees in each state, who do wonderful work ensuring the success of our team farewell and welcome home dinner. So my thanks go to Peter Fox in Victoria, Mark Stockwell in Queensland, Jeff Colbert in New South Wales, Richard Amato in South Australia, Liz Scott and Andrew Vlahoff over in the West, and Paul Padley and Louise Dobson for their work in the ACT. And finally, a big thank you to you, our member sports. It's tough out there in Sportland, we know that, and you all make an amazing contribution that keep our sports moving forward, creating opportunities for athletes, often against the odds. I'll end this year as I did last year. My goal, our goal, is to be an athlete-focused, sport-focused organisation that delivers for our sports and our athletes, and one that spreads the benefits from us being a strong Olympic nation to all fellow Australians. We do this together, and we remain stronger together. Thank you very much. We can remove ourselves now and go back to the rest of the flow of business, which I think hopefully means we're just calling for any general business.
Indeed.
If there's any general business, someone will let us know, and we might just take a brief pause whilst we find that out. Thank you very much. There's no general business. So that means we are now at the end of our meeting. Please, I thank you very much for your attendance. Greatly appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you in Paris and around the traps across the following year. And I'll now declare the meeting closed. There will be a press conference downstairs in around about 30 minutes. But please enjoy the rest of your day, and please have a look at a highlights video from all that we've been doing at the Australian Olympic Committee in 2023. Thanks very much.